You know, when I discover a traditional game, a historic game in a book or on a website, I want to know about its history. I want to know about its genealogy, its roots. How does it fit into the general evolution of games? But you know, sometimes I just can't seem to find that noble path to true enlightenment. Many times I fall into a research rabbit hole, you might say, trying to find that magic drink me vial and trying to avoid the wrath of the Red Queen, of course. And sometimes those meandering tunnels will lead me to some unexpected delight. Other times, if I'm more deliberately seeking something, those tunnels can lead me to dead ends all over the place. Through it all, I hope to find some deep truth in there, but it doesn't always work out. This particular case is a little unusual. Most of the time when I'm researching ancient games of India, there's a tremendous amount of research and recorded history having been done. The scholars and historians in India are very meticulous about recording their history, so it's surprising to reach a dead end. Vimanam is one of these mysteries. It's as if it sprung out of the Indian consciousness and suddenly became a part of their culture. The game of Vimanam is all over the internet, and so it obviously exists. There are commercial versions being produced and sold. It pretty well appears to be a popular enough game, in India at least. But again, there's not much background information. In doing some more research, I came up with the term Vemana. It's a name of the structure over the inner sanctum of a Hindi temple, and it's quite often the tallest part of the structure. Now, also, if you look up the term, you may come across references to a cosmically powered spacecraft. That's a whole nother video channel. So let's talk about some gaming here. There doesn't appear to be any connection between the architectural aspect and the game itself. So the best I could come up with was it's a traditional game. It was originated in the south part of India. Its Hindi name is Vimanam, but its Tamil name is Kurankata. Several sources I've read say they use cowrie shells, 6 cowrie shells, in order to randomize the movement. But most sources talk about using a set of long dice, which are called dayakatai. The dayakatai are generally made of brass, and they'll have pips on 3 sides, one side with 1, one with 2, one with 3, and then the 4th side is blank. They're sometimes called da'ayam or da'ala. Doing the research led me to some other games that use the dayakatai, one of which is called Thiam. I've heard of Thiam before, so I searched the net, and here's what the board looks like. Or here's what the board looks like. Or maybe this is what the board looks like, depending on where you look. But this looks a lot like this, which is the Vimanam board. So apparently, all these games are in a family that use the dayakatai dice, and the references to them on the internet are very confusing. So be that as it may, let's go over the rules for Vimanam, and then I'll come back later and talk about it a little bit more. Each player selects 6 pawns of one color. The pawns start off the path, gathered together in their designated home areas. Players decide who begins the game by rolling the long dice for the highest result. Then players will alternate turns. The die results equal the number of spaces moved by a single pawn. On a result of 1 or 5, a player may start a pawn on the track or move the resulting number of spaces, then take another turn. On a result of 0, that's 2 blank faces, they can move a pawn 12 spaces and take another turn. If a die result can't be used for some reason, the turn is forfeit and the dice are passed. If a die result would land a pawn on a friendly piece, that move cannot be made. Only 1 pawn can be on each square. Players follow their own distinct path around the board. The 2 paths are mirror images of each other, although they share some sections of the path. All pawns can pass each other freely anywhere on the board. The center path from the start sections through the two final branches is called the bridge. From there, each player turns onto the arm closest to them. Their final goal is at the end of that arm. During this journey, if a pawn should land on an enemy pawn at the end of a move, that enemy pawn is removed and given back to its owner to start again on a later turn. A pawn resting on a square with a rosette is safe and cannot be removed. A player must perform at least one removal before any of their pawns can move up the final part of the bridge towards their final destination. Players must roll an exact die result to land on the final rosette and finish. The finishing pawns are removed from the path. To win the game, a player must be the first to move all 6 of their pawns around the entire path and off the board. Despite the confusion about the game's name, it's a pretty straightforward race game. The rules should be pretty familiar to a lot of you players. I do not have a pair of the Diakatai dice that they use in India. It's on my to-do list to make myself a set. But instead, I'm using the Norse barrel dice. They give the same results and the same odds, although they have a 4 or an X. You just have to pretend that that's not 4 pips, it's a blank side. You can do it, you just have to brainwash yourself a little bit.
There are 4 dice!
But of course, one caveat is if you use the long dice as opposed to the cowrie shells, the odds are different. The long dice will come up with the 2 blank sides, the 12 space turn, a lot more often than you'll get that on the cowrie shells. I didn't see any reference to that in the resources I was looking at, but it's true nonetheless. So play Vimanam and let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing your comments. Now, you don't have to play Vimanam every day, but be sure to play something every day.